Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So today what we'll do is we're going to take a look at ct-tuya-convert. So converting existing devices that we may have. I bought this bulb right here. It uses the My Life app or one of those. They're all basically exactly the same cheap Chinese bulbs. The thing is we want to get them out of the cloud and just use them locally. So I'm not going to do much into Home Assistant, but I will show you how to get ct-tuya-convert on there, and then once we have converted that to TAS Motor, we'll be able to use it locally and then connect it to Home Assistant. Not a lot to it, it's a fairly simple process. So with that said, let's go in and take a look. There we go, so we're back on the PC side. So before we get started, one thing we do need to take a look at is everything that we'll need. So hardware wise, we're going to need a Raspberry Pi, and I'm going to use the Raspberry Pi 3, the old one that I have laying around. Then we're also going to need the actual bulb that we're going to flash with ct-tuya-convert, and then we also need an SD card which we will flash the firmware onto. One more thing that you're also going to need is a Ethernet cable that you will connect to your Raspberry Pi, because the Wi-Fi is what we're going to use to upload the firmware to the bulb itself. If you're in the market for buying some of these bulbs, or the cheap ones, as long as their brightness are okay, they should be fine to use. But if you're in the market for bulbs, what I'll recommend is, I'll leave this link down in the description as well. So what it is a list of all the compatible bulbs that you'll know will definitely work with the ct-tuya-convert, and it also gives us a template that we can directly add into our configuration, which means we don't need to try and figure out what pins are mapped to what. We can buy one of the bulbs that's listed on here, and it'll automatically have a template that we'll use for the bulb. Now this is not just for bulbs, there's a lot of additional sockets and switches you can add in as well. The one I'm going to use is this one right here. So as you can see, as soon as you click on it, it shows us exactly where you can buy it from, and it also gives you the actual configuration or the pin layout that you can configure for this specific bulb, and you also have a template you can copy in as well. So to get started with ct-tuya-convert, the first thing we need to do is we need to set up the Raspberry Pi, or download the image for Raspberry OS. So they changed the name, it's not Raspbian or Bust or anything, it's just Raspberry Pi OS now. So you can download the standard image. So I'm going to use the Raspberry Pi 32-bit Lite image. Just download that. Once it has been downloaded, fairly simple, plug in your SD card to your computer, and then use the application Polina Etcher to flash that onto the SD card. Now, do keep in mind, I did cover this in the very first video of how to flash images onto the Raspberry Pi, so I'm not covering it in too deep. One thing you do need to do is, once the flash has been completed, we need to enable SSH on that SD card. So by default it's not enabled. So what you'll do is you'll unplug the SD card and then plug it back into your computer, and then once it's plugged back in, you should see a drive called boot. So when you go to my computer, it'll give you an option that says boot drive. So you can just go open up the boot, right click, says new, you can call it text documents, and then all we need to do is we need to call this SSH. So SSH, and then we need to remove the file extension. So I'm going to delete. We don't want it .txt, we just want it SSH. Hit enter. It's going to tell us that we're about to change the file extension. We just say yes. And there we go. So that's it. So that's all we need to do. Is the next step is we need to plug that SD card into the Pi and power it up. There we go. So once the Raspberry Pi has powered back up again, we're going to need to have a way of communicating with the Pi. With that, I'm going to use Putty. I'll leave this link down below as well, and that'll allow us to remotely communicate with the Pi via SSH, so we can install the necessary program. So all you do is you just download it. It's a very small application, and once you open it up, it's going to ask you to enter in the IP address of the Pi. You have multiple ways of finding this out. The easiest way would be is to download an app called Thing from the Play Store and just scan for devices, and you'll be able to find the Raspberry Pi listed on there. So to connect to the Pi, all I'm going to do is type in the IP address, so it's 10. And then once you open that up and you've accepted the message that comes up, it'll ask you to log in. So the username is obviously going to be Pi, and then the password is Raspberry. There we go. So that updated all the packages for us. Now all we need to do is we need to install Git, because we're going to copy information from GitHub. So it's going to be sudo apt install git, and that's going to install Git for us. And then we just need to say yes right here so we can install that information. Once this has installed, we can go over to the actual ct-tuya-convert page on here as well, because the rest of the commands is fairly simple. We just need to install Git so we can copy the information over, but they do have instructions on here as well. So if we do scroll down, you'll see right here it does give us all the information that we need, so we can just copy these. There we go. So that went and installed Git. So all I did was I'm going to copy this right here and paste that code right in there, hit enter. It's going to download the ct-tuya-convert library, and then all we need to do once it has downloaded that is we need to open up the file that it just downloaded. As you can see, it downloaded that, so we need to open up, so cd to go to that specific file, and then run the installer of it. So just paste that in, hit enter, and that'll start the installation process for us to use the ct-tuya-convert. There we go, guys. So that went ahead and finished installing. All I did was I typed in sudo reboot to reboot the Raspberry Pi, because it did install a lot of things and we just want to reboot to make sure everything is running and functioning like it should. So once we let that Pi reboot, we should be able to reconnect again. What you may also need to do is you need to get a additional phone or device that you're going to connect to the network. So what's going to happen is as soon as we start the process, it'll ask you to connect a additional device to the Pi network that is going to create. Then we also need to put our device that we'd like to flash. We need to put this into flashing or pairing mode, not flashing mode. And you need to check the manual. There may be some additional ways. In most cases, you just turn the light on and off 3 times, and that should put it in the correct mode for you to be able to convert it using ct-tuya-convert. So once we're back in there, we can just go back to ct-tuya-convert. So we're in that folder, so we just paste that in there. And then in order to start the actual process, we can go a bit down, and I'll leave these in order in the description down below as well. We can start the process by using start flash. So startflash.sh. So we just paste that in here, and that should start the whole process. So as you say, it's going to ask you to read this carefully, because it is going to tell you that you can't break your device, and meaning that you just throw it in the trash because it'll no longer work. So you need to say yes, and then you need to type in yes and press enter. And there we go. So this is now going to start the whole process, and it's fairly simple. We need to just follow along with the information that is supplied by the on-screen commands. Once we're in here, it may ask you to do a couple of things, and mine gave an error the first time that I ran it, so I'm just going to run it again. And then I get, when you get to this spot, you need to go in and press enter. Then it's going to create a Wi-Fi network, which is called vTrust, and we just need to connect to that network. So on my phone or a device or on your computer, if you have Wi-Fi, you can just go in and connect to that specific network. Once you are connected, it should tell you that you are connected. And then what we need to do is we also need to put in our device into flashing mode. So let's just turn on this camera right here. I know it's going to be a bit dark, but I just need to put this device into flashing mode. There we go. It is sending a few packets on there. Once we are connected, it was in flashing mode, and then it connected to and starts to flash the device. And as you can see, it is fetching the firmware backup. So that's just creating a backup of the existing firmware that we have on that bulb. And then once it has that, it'll ask us to go in and select the firmware we'd like to add. So as you can see right here, it gives us three options. I definitely want to flash TAS motor on this one, so I'm going to press 2. I need to click in here, press 2. Are you sure you want to flash TAS motor? I'm going to say yes. And we'll give that a few seconds, and that's going to start the flashing process. Fairly simple, not a lot to it. So you just follow the basic on-screen commands, and you should be good to go. There we go. As you can see, everything is good to go. So now if we open up our network right here, we see TAS motor is available. So I can go in and connect to this one real quick. I don't want to flash another, so I'm just going to close this window out. In that session, we don't need that anymore. And then once we're connected to the TAS motor network, we can go to 192.168.4.1, I think it is. There we go. Give our Wi-Fi information so it can go in and connect to our network. Hit save. When we entered in our Wi-Fi information, it should restart that device and it would be part of our network. There we go, guys. So back in, and it connected back to the Wi-Fi network. And as you can see, I was able to find the IP address. I have some issues with my microtik. It decided not to work anymore, but doesn't matter. It's working. I'm in here. And what we can do from here is we still need to configure the module. So what we need to do is we need to copy over that template. So remember, it is already listed on here. So all we can do is we find the specific bulb that we just flashed. We copy the template code right here. We just click on the copy and it'll copy that information over. Then if we go back to the actual device, there we go, click on the configuration. We click on configure other. Then in here, we select all, we just paste that code right in the template option. We do want to make sure we check the activate box. That'll activate this template as soon as we save the information. Then we have the web admin password. I'm just leaving that as is. Enable MQTT, obviously, because we want the Home Assistant to be able to discover this specific device as well. And then the friendly name. I'm going to call this RGBW room, just so I have a way of identifying this specific device. Once we have that, all we need to do is hit the save button. That's going to go in and restart the TAS motor. I almost said Home Assistant. That's going to restart TAS motor for us and apply that template. There we go. As you can see, it restarted and it has everything in here. So now, if I take the bulb, there we go. So we have it listed right here, and we need to turn up the intensity. There we go. Brightness. So as you can see, there we go. It is functioning like it should. So now obviously we have that configured and everything's local and it's fantastic. So we are good to go. The only thing that's left to do is having it in Home Assistant. To do that, it's fairly simple. All we'll do is we go into the console right here, and then we go in and type in the following command to activate auto discovery to set, so it sends all that information. It's going to be set option 19 space 1. Enter, There we go, and as you can see, it turned that on, and it gives us a lot of information in here, and that's the information that will be sent to Home Assistant, so it'll automatically discover the device in here. So back in our Home Assistant, once we've enabled option 19, if we go to our configuration and then click on integrations, you'll see under NQTT it automatically did discover that information. So if we click on it, you'll see right here RBGW room, and right here you'll see we have the option to turn the bulb on and off. We can add this to Lovelace, obviously, so if we click on add to Lovelace, it'll add that to our Lovelace. So once we have that and we've added it to Lovelace, so as you can see right here is the bulb. I can go and turn it on and off. I've already added it to my Lovelace, so right here we have it. So on off, we can adjust the brightness as well. Or if we hold it, we can still change the actual color of the bulb itself. There we go, and wow, that one is bright. So yes, once everything's set up, you should be good to go, and this is now an entity locally on your Home Assistant configuration. And there we go, that's going to be it for this one, guys. It took a really long time, longer than I expected. I had some issues with power to the Raspberry Pi, and then my home network decided to no longer work. So there was a lot of things, but at least I got everything in, and I hope you guys at least have some better understanding of how to flash your devices. If you guys do get stuck, as always, you can write down below. I think I may have sorted out my notifications issue with comments, so I should be able to respond to you as soon as I can. And once again, thank you guys for watching. If you want more, you can hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.